Hello and welcome to the We Are Careers show, and hope you're having a wonderful week wherever you are in the career sphere. Sabiha, how is your week going?
Oh my God, it has been, as always, a really fascinating, insightful meeting some amazing people. And speaking of meeting amazing people, we have got not one, not two, but three fantastic guests for you lined up for today. So those folks who have joining us for the very first time to the We Are Career Show, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button to make sure that you never miss an episode. And if you are enjoying the content and the plethora of guests that we are bringing to you, then please hit that like button. It really does make a difference. Now, the We Are Career Show is a fortnightly go-to for career professionals who are working within the UK market and beyond, who want to improve as well as enhance their continuous professional development by finding out about the latest issues that are impacting the career development sector. Now, each show we will bring you the latest updates in the sector to keep you well informed so you don't have to do the hard work. Plus, we will bring you inspirational guests. And oh boy, I'm so excited because I'm a fangirl of one of the guests that we have here today. We have brought you three amazing inspirational guests who are also authors as well. Now, the aim is simple: to connect and build a strong community of career professionals so that we can serve our clients in the best possible way. And for those of you that don't know me, I am known as Meet Sabiha, and I have recently become a talent acquisition director. And it's my job to matchmake talent to UK companies. And as always, I am joined by the fabulous, amazing Chris Webb. Chris, jam-packed show today. What have we got coming up today?
Absolutely. So we're going to get straight into it because it is absolutely jam-packed, as you say. And at the time of kind of recording, or at the time of publishing this, I should say, this is going out on the 4th of December, Christmas approaching. And so we thought, what better than to give you some options for stocking fillers by talking all about the Trotman CDI publishing partnership that has launched, as you rightly say, Spear, not one, not two, but three fantastic books that you could consider getting for yourself or for a careers professional in your life. Anytime up until the Christmas period and beyond. So I think really to kick things off, the best thing for us to do is just meet the authors themselves. So we're going to ask you just to introduce yourselves very briefly, guys. Tell us a bit about your work for maybe any viewers or listeners who haven't come across you before. I'm going to start with Julia, if that's okay. So Julia, are you okay to come in first and introduce yourself?
Of course, and what a lovely treat to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us all along. It's very exciting. So my name is Julia Yates. I work at university. I work at City University of London. I've been here for about 6 years, and I teach here on the Masters in Organisational Psychology. But at heart, and in terms of my background, I'm very much a careers practitioner. So I spent 15 years working in careers in universities and schools and colleges. And then I moved over about 12 years ago to being an academic. So I work for the University of East London, and I set up a course in career coaching. And now I teach and I write and I research all sorts of things about careers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Julia. Brilliant summary. We're going to hand over to Gill. So Gill, come on in and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thanks very much to Chris and Sabiha for inviting me along. I'm a little bit starstruck, actually. I'm very excited. Anyway, I'm Gill Frigerio, and I work at the University of Warwick. I'm an associate professor in the Centre for Lifelong Learning, and we run a range of different programmes related to career development practice. Like Julia, I'm a practitioner by background and made that move into a teaching role. And I'm also the chair of NISEC, and know Julia through that. We're both fellows. And NISEC's a learned society that kind of connects practice, scholarship, policy, research in the career development space.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jill. And now over to our final author. So, Chris, last but certainly not least, for any of our viewers and listeners that might be tuning into the podcast, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so basically I'm the careers advisor at CXK. and I'm area manager for the CXK Young People Service, looking after a little team of fantastic advisors that deliver careers guidance services across Kent and Medway, down in the southeast of England. And I am a massive careers geek, is probably the best way to describe me. I'm also the current chair of the Careers Writers Association. So thank you for having me, guys.
That's amazing. And you are absolutely welcome. In fact, I feel as if I'm currently surrounded by like such experts here in the show today, each of them bringing something really valuable to share with you, the viewers. Now, speaking of viewers, if you're listening for the first time, you will not know this, but for our regular viewers, they will know this, that for every show, we love to celebrate innovation, inspirational members of the careers community, or perhaps maybe it's simply a shout out to something positive that's happening in the careers world since our previous show. So, Gill, let's start with you first. Who, what, where is your careers cheers of the week?
Okay, well, thank you. My careers cheers are the students and graduates of our subject area, because we've had an exam board this week, the formal meeting, you know, where awards are conferred. And that's a lovely moment to really celebrate the achievements of students who've worked really hard on their professional training. So we've got 6 newly hatched Masters in Career Development and Coaching Studies who'll graduate in January. But we've also got a whole host of other people who've received a postgraduate award in careers leadership if they're working in schools and colleges, or postgraduate certificates in careers work, which enables them to join the register of career development professionals. And it really represents a lot of hard work. So that's been the thing that's made me cheerful this week.
Oh, I love that, Gill. And I agree with you. You know, when you're seeing people coming into the sector and they're like bright eyed and they're so enthusiastic, it's always a beautiful thing to see. And I've got to say, Gill, it's definitely beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. I'm being slightly distracted by, is it a reindeer? Is it a moose in the background that I.
It's actually a moose. His name is Melvin.
Oh,
and
hello, Melvin.
he's featured in my living room all year round, and there is a whole backstory, but that is another podcast.
Another podcast. Got it. Thank you for that, Gill. So I want to come now to Chris T. Chris, who, what, where is your feel-good story of the week?
Well, what I want to give a massive careers cheer to is actually everyone at CXK, not just the amazing careers advisors that we've got. So not only do we have our young people service, which I look after with my amazing team, we've also got the national careers service that we deliver in the area, but we've also got our prison service, we've got our employability service. And basically there's so many hardworking, dedicated careers advisors, but also crucially, some amazing people behind the scenes, our human resources department, our marketing team, our finance lot. So I've been having a few IT issues today, and they just completely sorted me out, helped me out, and they're just always so absolutely brilliant. So my careers cheer is to all the amazing peeps at CXK. We're surrounded by such lovely people, and they're absolutely amazing, and particularly the back office staff. They sometimes get missed, and I wouldn't be able to go out there and do what I do, and my team wouldn't be able to go out there and do what we do if it wasn't for the people around us. So yeah, I wanted to give them a shout out, particularly those back office guys who are amazing.
I love that, Chris, and I absolutely agree with you. Honestly, the amount of times where I need IT help particularly is just phenomenal. So definitely I agree. Everybody who helps us do what we do and gets us to where we need to get to is amazing. So thank you for that, Christy. And then Julia, I want to come to you. Who or what or where are you going to do your careers cheers for?
Well, I was just thinking, it was so nice to hear Gill and Chris, and my thought for them was just that aren't careers people wonderful? They just are, it's a true fact. But anyway, my specific careers cheer is all about the Bill Law Award. So this is a thing that we run every year as part of NISEC, and it's in memory of the mighty Bill Law, who sadly died in 2017. And every year we do an award where students and practitioners who are doing research submit their research, and we kind of celebrate the best research that's going on in our sector. So it's launched for this year, and the deadline for abstracts is the 24th of February. Anybody's welcome to drop me a line if they want to know any more about it, but that's my careers cheer to everybody thinking about applying to the Bill Law Award next year.
Oh, I love that, Julia. That's a double whammy. So not only is it a sort of kind of nod to the amazing Bill Law, but also as well encouraging in the spirit of Bill Law, because he was such a sharer, wasn't he, of ideas
Exactly.
and models
Absolutely.
and theories.
Yes.
And so encouraging others to also do the same as well. So I love that, Julia. So those are the careers cheers for today. Chris, let's dive into today's topic. So, what are we going to be exploring and how are we going to be helping viewers? What are we helping viewers understand today?
Well, yes, as we said, Spirit, at the top of the show, this is quite an exciting time for the CDI and Trotman for this book publishing partnership that we kind of mentioned earlier, and we're very, very lucky, as you rightly said, to have 3 authors on to talk about these 3 new books that are being released as part of this partnership. So I think really that the first thing that we've got to do is is the sales pitch, is give all of you an opportunity here to talk a little bit more about the book, what's included in it, but also kind of importantly, why you feel careers professionals should pick up a copy at some point. So Chris, I'm going to bring you in first, and I know you don't actually have a copy of the book to share for reasons which you may explain, but paint us a word portrait. Tell us a little bit more about the book, and yeah, why should careers professionals get involved with it?
Fantastic. Well, okay, so the book that I have written with my co-author, Jules Benton, the absolutely amazing guru on all things working with young people and older people with additional needs. The book is basically career development and inclusive practice. And this book is aimed at all career development practitioners, but also other educationalists as well, working with any client group across the UK. It isn't England centric, it also covers Scotland, Wales, and of course Ireland as well, in terms of how we can best support our clients more inclusively. Now, its aim is focused, of course, on those clients with additional needs, but the point where Jules and myself are coming from is going much wider than that, that actually inclusive practice helps all clients. You never know, for the young person or for young persons who I work with, I keep saying that, but the adult, whoever you've got in front of you, you will not necessarily know what their needs might be, but an inclusive mindset treats every client in that way of how can we be more adaptable, more inclusive, more creative for our clients that we're working with to provide them with the best possible services. It also comes from the viewpoint of looking at our cultural awareness of making sure we don't put our clients in particular boxes and the different models of disability. So moving away from the medical diagnostic model and looking at other models such as the affirmative model. Now, if you don't know what the affirmative model is, I suggest that you buy this book and find out. It is packed full of case studies, insights, and Jules's amazing writing of the understanding of different sorts of conditions that can affect our clients and how they manifest with things like understanding and communication and also decision making, because of course our careers work is all about helping our clients to be empowered to make decisions, not just as a one-off kind of intervention with the work we're doing, but going forward and in the future and helping them to learn about the career development kind of skills, practices and things that they might need to navigate their own careers. So it is a pragmatic book. It builds on the amazing books of our other authors that we've got here today, forming this most amazing trilogy of books to help all career development practitioners. But importantly, it is about not putting our clients into boxes and taking a very sort of linear approach to additional needs. It is about widening practice, improving practice, and ultimately helping practitioners, whether you're a seasoned pro or you're new to the sector, develop confidence working with clients with additional needs, because it's nothing to be frightened of. It's some amazing stuff that you can do, and it's stuff that you can take across the whole of your practice. So, for example, here at CXK, some of the things that we do, just give you an example, is that we have adapted action plan pads that are inclusive by their nature, being buff paper, which makes it easier for those who are visually impaired. So yes, buy the book, full of insights, case studies and research that will help you with your practice. I hope this helps.
Excellent sales pitch, Chris. I absolutely love it. We're going to come back a little bit later to talk about I guess, where people can find the book, and particularly the date it's kind of being published, and some stuff from around the CDI conference, which will have already happened by the time people are listening to this. But I think just so that they kind of know all the things that are going on in terms of the promotion of the book itself. We've got so much we could talk about in terms of inclusivity, but I think perhaps the message to leave on there is, if you're going to put anything in a box, make sure it's your book and wrap it up and give it to someone.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's useful for those outside of the careers development sector as well. So not just for careers advisors. If you're any kind of an educationalist, this book will help you.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. And you did a really nice kind of segue in there to our other authors in terms of how the books in the trilogy complement each other. So, Gill, I'm going to move over to yourself next. Please tell us a little bit about your book and give us your sales pitch.
Okay, well, I'm one of the 3 authors of this lovely book, the Career Development Handbook, with this delightful succulent on the front. And my co-authors are Tristram Hooley, who I'm sure most viewers and listeners of the podcast will have heard of and come across his work. And also Rosie Alexander, who works in this space too. She's been a lecturer, writer, researcher, practitioner. And we came together and decided that we wanted to write a textbook that was comprehensive about the range of things that career development practitioners need to know about. That could be a useful course textbook, but also CPD reading for people who are in practice. And we were aware that there are quite a lot of textbooks that focus in on particular issues, particular aspects of careers work, such as Julia's books on career coaching, for example. But that careers work encompasses a whole range of different duties. If you look at the way that the apprenticeship standard in England, for example, articulates 9 core duties of career development professionals, or the NICE competencies across Europe look at the different types of things that we do as career development professionals and the different things that we need to know about. And we wanted to kind of get all that into one place. So we've covered what careers work is and how to get into it, and some material about studying the experience of being a work-based learner on a program, either doing placements or studying whilst you're in employment. We've talked about the study skills you need for that and some of the sort of professional issues and professional boundaries that we deal with. And we've looked at the different activities that guidance practitioners are engaged in around, thinking about how do you handle information, how do you take into account the context that you're working in, whether that be labour markets or educational systems in different countries, how you understand policy and how it influences your work. And there's a really chunky chapter on theories. And a chapter, of course, on career coaching and counselling. But then there's also chapters on service design, service management, leadership, and not just being in a formal leadership position, but engaging with leadership as a practitioner in all sorts of different roles, working with different professions, evaluating, thinking about your own career development as well and your own self-care. So it's really broad. It's got lots of further resources in it that are signposted, some case studies that show some different aspects of practice, and then a really cute, I think we've probably all got this, at the end of every chapter there's a little in a nutshell section illustrated with an extremely cute squirrel.
I feel like that was like the mic drop moment there.
I love it.
I love it. I mean, it sounds hugely comprehensive, and I think really great to hear that you've kind of covered that holistic sense of what it means to be a career development practitioner, as you say, becoming a more and more complex role, I think, each year, particularly kind of with the trends that are sort of encompassing the world around demographic change, the rise of AI, the way the labour market's changing. So much more for careers professionals to think about, particularly the policy side. And
we work with so many different stakeholders, don't we? We've got our clients, of course, and we're focused on their needs, but we've also got colleagues, managers, employers, other stakeholders. So thinking about the whole system, really, of career development work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gill. That's fantastic. So 2 great pitches, and I know we've got one more to come. So Julia, last but certainly not least, tell us a little bit about the book, and do you have a copy to share?
I do. There. Very exciting. So Chris and Jill, it was fabulous to hear about your book. So they're definitely going to be on my Christmas list to Santa this year. So thanks very much for sharing about those. So I'm really excited about my book. This one, so Jill's is a kind of broad overview, a really comprehensive look at our work. And this is kind of the opposite. This really hones in on one particular aspect, which is theories and using theories in practice. And so I love a career theory. I just, enjoy reading them and thinking about them and using them in with my clients. And I also really enjoy teaching them. I do a lot of that on my courses. But it sort of dawned on me a few years ago, after lots and lots of conversations with practitioners, that theories are not always really widely used in practice. And I was kind of unpicking this a little bit with practitioners I spoke to, and there seem to be lots of different reasons for that. And sometimes it's because people can't necessarily remember the theories that they were taught. Sometimes it's because they're trying to read about them, but they're not always terribly, easy to understand when you're reading about them. And often it's because people don't really know what to do about them. The practitioners that I've talked to always say that they're taught about theories really well on courses, which I was pleased to hear, and Jill's probably pleased to hear too. But actually, they didn't then know what to do with the theory. Once they got it and grasped it and understood it, then how do they do it in practice? So having had lots of these conversations, I started to think maybe there was something I could do to help. And so what I've come up with here is what I hope is a book that's really accessible. So I've tried to take the theories and really kind of explain them in a kind of easy to understand way. And then the other thing I've done with it is I've tried to make it really practical. So not just here's the theory, but here's the theory and this is what you can do with it. So I grouped the theories, because another question people sometimes ask me was, how do you know which theory to use, in which context? And I've tried to group the theories a little bit around the actual challenges that people meet in their careers work. So there are a few theories that I think are really good for helping with self-awareness. And then there's some other theories that are good for helping clients take ownership of their careers. So hopefully that'll help readers kind of work out where to look for the particular theories. And although I've written this alone, it's kind of sole authored book, but I did draw inspiration from lots of our wonderful colleagues in careers. I sent out a call a couple of years ago for theory geeks in the careers world and spent quite a lot of hours talking to career practitioners about how they use theories and which ones they use and which clients they use them for. And so I've been able to incorporate all sorts of case studies in the book, really saying, okay, so I work with year 10 students at a school and this is the theory I use and this is how I use it. So my hope is that it's an accessible and practical guide to this area of our work that we kind of know is important, but we don't always quite know how to incorporate into our practice.
Honestly, Julia, I'm a big fangirl. I will quite happily publicly announce fangirl of Dr. Julia Yates, and have to say I have really enjoyed hearing you speak at conferences and events, as well as reading your books as well. And you know what I was thinking while you were sharing that, Julia, was you've literally chat GPT this. So you know how we all go on to whatever AI tool and we go, right, year 10 students need to do this, and you have literally curated content for career professionals and put it in what sounds to me like a really sort of kind of simple, easy to follow, so that we can just literally skim through and go, right, this is the challenge that I've currently got with this particular type of client, or I'm doing this type of coaching calls with a particular type of group. And you are literally saying we can dip in, dip out. And come on, folks, come on, listeners, come on, viewers. Isn't that just amazing? This idea of us, because we're time poor. We all know this. We're time poor, and having this type of help and assistance, and just sort of kind of coming back to each and every one of the books that we're hearing each of the author talk about, I just sense such passion, such dedication by each and every one of them. Chris, Jill, and Julia have put so much passion and effort. So, I mean, if it's not on your Eid, Christmas, Hanukkah shopping list, they definitely need to be on there. I mean, you're thinking June trilogy, this festive season, definitely you need to be looking at these books. And so, speaking of writing and authorship, I suspect that we have got viewers and listeners tuning in today's podcast because they themselves are full of career wisdom and love the idea of writing a book, but aren't quite sure where to start, or even if it's something that they think that they can do for themselves. Okay, so I'm going to come to each one of you, and Julie, I'll start with you first. What would your advice be if you had like 60-second advice of what you could give them to any budding careers, writers, authors, based on your own publishing experiences to date? What would you have to say to them? So, Julie, if I come to you first.
So my first thing is to say you can definitely do it. It's a long project, but you can manage that, can't you? So work out what you want to write. Have a think about who might want to publish it. So have a look at similar books and see who publishes them, and then just get in touch with them. They will be really pleased to hear from you, because publishers are always looking for authors. And my third point is, don't imagine you're going to make a lot of money from it. That'll do for me.
I like that, Julia. Very practical tips there. Chris, I'm going to come to you next. Chris, from your experience, what tips would you have?
I would say start from what you're passionate about. So this particular book that I've written with Jules, massively kind of personal interest. So I think many of you in the community know that I've got ADHD. I've got 2 boys with ADHD and ASC. So start with what you're passionate with. Start with what makes it meaningful for you. And you can always start small. So I got into writing. I was encouraged by the great Alison Dixon, the previous previous editor, of Career Matters. And she encouraged me, and she made and helped me to believe in myself. And of course, as you get into writing, particularly if you're writing about careers, don't forget to get in contact with the Careers Writers Association. We'll be happy to have a chat and support you where we can. So yeah, write about what moves you, what infuses you, and start with that. And you can start small if you want to. If you don't feel like you're ready to write a book straight off, that's my top tip.
Great tip. It's sort of kind of like, short bits, even if it's starting off as a blog. And then I agree with you, Chris, having a community around you, being associated with the Careers Association or other sort of kind of writers groups is always helpful if that is a goal that you want to have. Gill, I want to bring you in because I'm sure you have got some amazing tips to share as well. So please do share with our viewers and listeners any tips that you recommend as a published author.
Well, excuse me, this is quite a new experience for me. I'd written a thesis on my own before and bits and bobs like that. But essentially, I'm a raging extrovert with a massive ego, right? So the secret of knocking this book out was having co-authors because it was company, it was pals to hang out with. And Tristram was, you'll notice his name's first as opposed to the alphabetical order. And that probably reflects that he drove the project in terms of conceptualizing the book and the initial contact with Trotman. And then we had some really interesting discussions, really shaping what we thought the book needed to cover, and the proposal, the structure, the chapters, and the tone. And then we divided that up, like Chris says, taking the things that we were particularly interested in and committed to. And then we had some really fun days using Teams because Rosie at the time was based in Orkney. So actually getting together to write was not really an option. But we'd go on Teams, have a writing day, turn our cameras off and mics off, write for half an hour, and then compare notes on what we'd produced, have a coffee, bounce some ideas around. And we did that a few times, and I really enjoyed that as a process. And then we shared our content and edited one another's work and gave one another feedback. So really rich, kind of fun process, also quite intellectually challenging. We bounced some really big issues around, and what we'd like to do now is maybe contribute to maybe a journal article or something based on the conversations that we had with other course leaders about the way that career development professionals are taught, and the learning environments that they need, what they need to learn. That's my experience of co-authoring. It's been lots of fun.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, just some fantastic kind of tips there across the board. I think acknowledging, I suppose, that difference between whether you are a co-author or whether you're kind of publishing individually, and whether you've got some experience in that, whether it's your first time kind of coming to it. And I think certainly we'd kind of echo your points there, Chris. As another member of the Career Writers Association, just to give it another plug, but also as someone who I think kind of in my writing career started completely small, and now it seems to be a big part of what I do outside of work. not necessarily in terms of book publishing, but just in terms of kind of how much I write. And it all starts somewhere, doesn't it? So really good kind of points from all of you there. We are rapidly coming towards the end of the podcast. This always happens. And I just feel like today, the energy we've got, we could really do with staying on for another half an hour and solving the world's problems, but I don't think we're going to have time for that in the show. So what we'd like to finish on, I guess, is just to kind of return to the books themselves, and for any of our viewers or listeners who are watching or listening to the podcast who maybe are thinking ahead to the Christmas, the festive period, and wanting to maybe get their hands on them, how they can do that and where they can kind of find the book. So Chris, I'm going to come back to yourself first, if that's okay. Tell us very briefly, where can they find your book? When's it getting published? And where's the best place to pick it up?
Fantastic. Okay, there's a couple of places that you can get this book. Check out the CDI and Trotman partnerships. If you Google those together, you will find information on the books. If you buy all 3 books, you also get 20% off. So that's worth having a look at. The reason I haven't got my book at the moment is that it comes out on the 29th of November. So by the time you're watching it, it will have just come out, and it just needs some people to buy it. So it's just there waiting for you in the wings. So you can jump onto things like Amazon, or like I said, through the old CDI Trotman thing. If you're coming to the CDI conference, I will be there on the 27th, I believe, on the second day, and there will be a book signing. So you could also pick up an early copy there if you fancy, and if you fancy talking to the author as well. And also my fantastic co-author, Jules Benton, will be there, who is the massive driving force behind this book, that she invited me to write with her, of which I am so grateful and so thankful. She's absolutely brilliant and an absolute legend. So I doff my hat to her and thank her for her support.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. So yes, those of you who are attending the CDI, or rather attended the CDI National Conference on the 26th and 27th of November, some of you hopefully will have had the chance to meet the authors. So yeah, great. If you had that opportunity, you'll now hopefully be listening to this and you'll feel a real personal connection with everyone, which is great. Gill, I'm going to come back to yourself. Is your book already out in the wild? And if so, how can people get their hands on it?
Yes, it's out in the wild. It's available from the CDI website. The Trotman website. We have had a little bit of feedback that people outside of the UK are struggling to get hold of it, and Trotman are acknowledging that there's challenges, customs union related challenges around international shipping, but it is available from a lot of local Amazon sites. And people are invited to email info@trotman.co.uk if they're outside the UK. But otherwise, yeah, it's available from Trotman along with the other books in the series.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gill. And again, you'll hear kind of a bunch of links and emails being mentioned. Just as a reminder to anyone who's tuning in for the podcast, you can find all of this information in both the YouTube description, if you're watching on YouTube, and in the Spotify episode notes, if you're listening in on Spotify. So finally, very much last but not least, Julia, again, same question to you. Is the book out in the wild at the moment, and what's the process for getting your hands on it?
So the book is out in the world at the moment, and exactly as Jill said, I think the Trotman website is definitely the best place to get it if you're in the UK. If you're from abroad, Amazon sadly has slightly cheaper selling fees, so that's probably better if you're going from abroad. I also just wanted to put in a little plug for my course on the CDI website whilst we're here, because this is really, I've done a course that kind of mirrors what's in the book. It's very much the book of the course. So it's free on the CDI website. It's an asynchronous course, so you can dip in and dip out, take it at the pace that you want to do it. And if you prefer listening to somebody talk about theories rather than reading them, have a look on the CDI website and you can access the same sort of information there.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that there's an audio version of this as well. That's just like, as you say, different ways people process information. Maybe you're going for a run, you're in the car. I just love how we're making sure, we talked about the start of the show where Chris T started off talking about how accessibility and how we can be more inclusive in our practices as career professionals. And so if that's something that you're looking to dive into, then there's a book for you. I love the fact that Gill and core authors have talked about sort of almost like a step-by-step process of what it looks like, covering a wide range of topics. I almost feel like it's a comprehensive guide of what Gill and her fellow co-authors have created for us as career professionals. And then Julia Yates, of course, has created for us another phenomenal how-to practical coaching for those of you who are on the front line, who are daily coaching and interacting with your clients and your users, service users, and are looking for more innovative ways of taking perhaps theory that you already know, but not quite sure how to practically apply it. There, you've got now a book there as well that can help you and teach you how to do that, folks. That is it for today. I mean, we've had not one, but 2 and 3 fabulous Trotman authors, a trilogy of amazing books available to you now during this festive season and beyond, helping each and every one of us, and I include myself in this, to become even better, even more effective and powerful practitioners. And isn't this the beauty of writing? And creating content that can be informative, but also educational to us as career professionals. And for anybody who's being inspired by these amazing authors and is thinking themselves, I think I've got a book in me. You've heard directly from these authors what they recommend you should be doing to get yourself out there as a published author. So that's pretty much everything from us this episode. Chris, what have we got coming up next? Can we reveal what we've got coming up
Absolutely.
next?
So we actually only have one episode remaining in the series before the end of the calendar year. So as you say, kind of the festive season fast approaching. And we're going to be talking all about technical and vocational education on our next episode in a fortnight's time. But until then, it brings us very nicely to the close of the episode. We've been talking trilogies today. In the great tradition of Indiana Jones, The Godfather, Star Wars, you now have your next unmissable trilogy. You heard it here first. So it just remains to be said, a massive thank you to Gill, to Julia, and to Chris.